that, a little bit about the project that I'm working on in Lincoln County that is very, very dependent on partnerships. And we're going to record this, and then Jeremy will send out the link to the recording to everyone on the list. So partnerships, I think all of us would agree that they're essential to our work, especially those of us who work at a state level. The only way, or not the only way, but many times we need partners to get something going. For example, I've had youth services librarians in my state ask me to duplicate Colorado State Library's backpack program. So what they want me to do is they want me to approach the state parks here and see if we can't get passes for all of our public libraries to circulate, and then they're going to take care of the getting the backpacks with binoculars and sort of things like that. So it's going to be a partnership that way. Another thing is that you know, I'm partnering with Department of Early Learning because we really wanted to get more integrated with the daycare people, and the Department of Early Learning licenses the daycare people. So a partnership, the libraries, the public libraries are very interested in having a foot, you know, in other words, having a partnership with the Department of Early Learning so that they can be aware that public libraries through our Every Child Ready to Read do support children in their efforts to get ready for kindergarten. So we would, you know, that's another way that if I'm going to get my work done, a partnership is essential. And I think the thing that we need to remember is that partnerships take time. It's rare that you can just go up and a great partnership immediately blooms. Partners need to share the same or a similar goal. It doesn't have to be super the same, but it needs to be similar enough that both people get information. So now I'd like to share about a project that is totally dependent on partnerships. And this is a highlighted view of Lincoln County. And the reason I'm working so hard in Lincoln County is that there are only 4 counties in the state that don't have a county-wide library system. There's a tiny county right up by the coast. Wahkiakum doesn't have that. Kittitas has kind of a gerrymandered one, and then Skagit County. And gradually the aim of the state library has been to extend library coverage and library service, and the way we've seen the best way to do that is to get a county library system in place. So Lincoln County didn't have any library champions, and so for the last 10 years I have been working on trying to get the independent city libraries to work together with the aim of doing a special library. So the project that I have been working in that group for 10 years, so that there are 6 tiny small libraries, and those small libraries are the 6 little city libraries. They are Reardon, Davenport, Wilbur, Odessa, Harrington, and Sprague. And so, and I've also, as we worked in there, I began to touch base with the economic development coordinator because she was also working to develop this rural county immediately to the west of Spokane. And I also touched base with the 4-H people, and they began to meet with us. I would go over to these little libraries, and I would host basically kind of like county-wide library meetings. And so we would talk about what they were doing. We would all help to try to get their summer reading, and then I sponsored a grant that tried to encourage them to move materials, to share materials. Each library got $500 to spend on new materials, which in their budget was huge. I mean, sometimes that duplicated their library materials budgets. So, and then they would share them in a system, and this went on for several years. And then it occurred to me that okay, I'm seeing some trouble. I'm going to adjust this. Jeremy, I'm going to send you some emails. The software, people are waiting for software to download. So that's the case. They didn't realize how long it was going to take. So Krista is going to come in with us, and Susan Paniker is going to. So Jeremy, I'm going to forward you these things, and so you can watch, and if they don't come on, maybe you can give them some help. So I'm emailing this to Jeremy as we speak. Okay, so we'll go on. So in other words, what came on was the project. So after, you know, I finally So after 10 years, last year, I got them all to sign an intergovernmental agreement. 10 years of work, but they all trusted each other enough that they felt that they could share resources. So that was a huge goal. And then the other thing is that just Adams County, immediately to the south of Lincoln County, had a pretty robust library. We had a bright young librarian there, and she had a staff of 3, I think, but she was really interested in also joining this partnership that I was trying to build. And so she's been a leader in this group, and they all now trust her. She's really sharp. She has a degree. She's the only one that has a library degree and is a librarian. And so she's been interested in also working towards something unique. Because my vision there is that the wheat farmers will never vote for a county library district. They just don't want their wheat fields taxed. That will be too much of a burden for them. So my idea is that the public libraries will get, we have the Speaker of the House and the representatives happens to be the Ritzville representative, the Ritzville Library. So we're going to ask when I think that the political time is right, we will ask this gentleman to submit a special bill that will allow the city libraries to vote to form a county library district to add on to the Ritzville Library District, and then that will form a district. So that's the idea. So, anyway, we are, that's where we are. So I wanted a project that would demonstrate to Lincoln County folks that libraries did more than check out materials to little old ladies' grandmas, because most of these libraries were really tiny, and the people who used them were primarily, middle-aged women. And so the challenge was, when I was meeting with the Economic Development Coordinator, she was bemoaning the fact, in fact, it was the top thing on her radar, that there were no organized summer-long programs for grade school children. And if you were a family and you lived in Lincoln County and you didn't have a family or friend who could take care of your grade school children, you had to move out. And as an economic development problem, that was a real problem, because people would move to Lincoln County, and then they found they couldn't stay there. So that was a top political issue for her. And the 4-H lady was also aware of this. And in fact, she was trying to help the school district, because the teachers didn't have any after-school care. There literally was no formal daycare. Their daycares went out of business in Lincoln County, because most people were there either had family that would take care of their children, or they felt comfortable having kids just walk home. And these are little tiny towns. So the challenge was, and then also I became aware that this was a place of economic, they aren't super wealthy out there. In fact, if any of you have read the Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, Reardon is the town that he goes to. And it is a very ordinary middle-class town. It's not, when he describes it as wealthy, I'm like, oh boy. Welpanit, the Spokane Indian Reservation that he grew up on, must have been pretty desperate if he just describes this as a wealthy place. So, no summer meal sites. So, we thought about it. We thought, well, how about, because about 8 to 9 years earlier, one of the school, the Reardon librarian, her daughter and Bridget had done this program with federal funds where they did a summer-long day camp. And so they had experience in doing a day camp. So, we decided that if we could get, we would go for a 3-year project, and my part in it was I was going to write the grants, and that's what I proceeded to do. So the Reardon Memorial Library, the Harrington School District, because at that point the school district had approached me with a proposal to have their seniors computerize the Harrington Library, because the Harrington Library is still on a paper catalog. So that was what we were going to do. So Harrington was very interested in coming on board, and the school secretary there was really interested in representing the library. I checked in with the mayor, who is a Microsoft contract worker, and he's very interested in making Harrington bigger. So he's sort of a sub-rosa partner. And then the 4-H gal, she was great. The economic people, once Adams County heard about Lincoln County, they signed on to promote it. And then the Ritzville Public Library. So my job was to get the money for this. We all decided there were like a steering committee, and we decided to approach the Inland Northwest Foundation. And then I wrote an IMLS leadership grant, and they said, no, this is not enough about a national issue, so it's a great grant, but it's funded locally. So I talked to my boss, and he was interested in supporting this, so he gave me the additional money that I would have gotten from the IMLS grant. So I got some money from him. So what was the common goal that all of these people were interested in doing? Basically, we all had a similar goal. We all wanted to make things better for kids. The economic development people were in it because of the daycare solution. I got the schools on board because of summer slump. In our state, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction is the one who administers the summer meal site program, and that woman was very interested in getting summer meal sites. And so this program that I'm going to describe in more detail does that in 3 sites that previously weren't. And then libraries. It was an opportunity to show that some of us could work together to do something beyond what they would expect from a library. So then this is what we think it's going to cost. So the estimated day camp is going to be $68,000 plus about $69,000. We have funding of $54,000, and this is where we got it from. A feature brain grant, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but that one was in connection with summer. If you were a summer meal site, then you could apply for $5,000 to pay to do something that promoted literacy or promoted reading skills in children. So what we're going to do with that money is we're going to pay teachers, because our budget didn't really give teachers enough money for them to be willing to come on board. So we got the additional $5,000 so that that we can pay teachers, hopefully, and attract them so that they can work with us to do the program. So right now we're in the part of hoping that we get enough parents, because this is brand new. So we hope that we get enough parents to sign on. It's going to be this 6 weeks program. So what is this program? It's 2 programs in one. It's called Stimulating Summers, Engaging Young Minds. So the first program, which is the wraparound program, is a day camp. We are starting out at $50 a week, which if you think about it, and we've gotten pushback, they went $50 a week, and then we say to them, it's $10 for an 8-hour day. Really? And then they go, oh, okay. But you can see right away the economic impact of this area. They don't have a ton of money, and so for them, $50. Next year it's going to have to be $100, and the year after that it's going to have to be $150 or even more, because our pitch to grant proposals and people like this is a 3-year program to see if it can be self-supporting, because we know we have to raise this money in the to keep this going. We need to keep it has to be self-supporting. So it's going to be 8 to 5, and what we have said is that the day camp program, we're going to start out so the kids get dropped off 8 o'clock or afterwards, and in the first hour, 8 to 10, we're going to do fun STEM stuff. We're going to do, it's going to be, the kids aren't going to know they're going to be learning, but it's going to be STEM activities. A lot of them drawn from past books that the Summer Reading Manual has proposed. So in other words, Bridget, the 4-H person, is very used to doing day camps with her 4-H people, so she's in charge of that part of it. So from 8 to 10, day camp activities, fun things. 2 sites are going to be at the schools. Harrington School is giving us access to the school. They aren't charging us. And Lind Elementary isn't also charging us for anything but the janitor's time to clean up. So we have those 2. And then the 3rd site is going to be in a park, and we have arranged for a rainy or an inclement weather at a church across the street from the park. So if it's rainy or inclement, that's where we're going to do it. So we're going to have each week, kids can just sign up for 1 week, and it is so we're saying you can't just come for a day, but you can come for a week. Our plan is that we think we're going to get more and more kids as we go along, because these are really tiny towns. Nobody's more than 600 people. There's not a whole lot to do. So we think as the kids have fun and talk about it, more and more kids will come on board. That's our hope, our plan anyway. So in the morning from 8 to 10, STEM activities. Then the day camp people walk over to where to hand it over to the library people. Now this is where the Feed Your Brain grant comes in. The Feed Your Brain grant is actually a free program. Now I'm going to flick over to, this is the daily library program. So if you come to the library program, you don't have to pay anything. So the day camp kids are automatically going to come to the library program every day. And on the days that we go and do field trips, that we're still going to have a program for the kids who aren't part of the day camp. And also the kids who just come to the free day camp, if they come all the time, there's going to be a way for them to earn their way onto several of the field trips. So right now, it begins at 10 o'clock with a snack. Now remember, there was no free food program, and so this is the summer nutrition. So at 10 o'clock, our Feed Your Brain program is going to start off with a snack, and then for the next 90 minutes, we're going to have literacy activities. Again, this part, it's going to be that the kids all have to take an assessment to see where they are in reading, and the teachers are actually going to do disguised reading activities. I didn't want this to be any workbooks, anything that was at all school-like. This is going to be fun. They're going to have fun, and there all will be a 20-minute reading time. Somewhere in that, we're going to let the kids choose their own books. They're going to be books from the library, and so they get to check out, choose their books, and they're going to read for 20 minutes, whatever they choose to read, or look at books, or do whatever. But in the meantime, we are actually working on improving their reading skills, sub rosa. So then at 12 o'clock, the food arrives for noon, and any kid who's there gets the food. So then, and the program ends at 12:30, and then the other thing, the way this works, it's very complex, is this is when our day camp people get their breaks and get their lunch. Is during this time when the library people come in, do this. Now the food is being prepared in a central location at the Harrington schools, and it's being trucked, and so the person who trucks the food in is also going to be the second person to help with the kids. So there's always going to be at least 2 people helping with all these children. We don't expect to get more than 30 kids max, and if we get more than that, we will scramble to find somebody to help us. But we also are intending to recruit some high school kids to volunteer, because they have classes that they have to do that in to graduate from high school, so we're going to try to recruit some high school kids to volunteer. So that is, 2 hours, that's what and then after that program is done, the kids who haven't paid for day camp are going home, and then the day camp kids will do some fun things in the afternoon. They will either go to the local pool, we will bus them to the local pool, we will have them play baseball or run around, or it's big muscle activities in the afternoon. Now another thing that we did to get this is that we have said that we didn't want to impact the local vacation Bible schools. We didn't want the community to say, well, you're competing with the local vacation Bible schools. So we are actually going to allow the kids the choice of going to the local vacation Bible school as part of the day camp program. So in other words, I think in some it's going to be a weekly, and others it's going to be, so we are going to take our kids and we're going to give the parents the chance of saying, no, we don't want to do that, in which case we'll have a separate activity. But we didn't want to co-op any of, these are small communities. We wanted to make this as community friendly as possible. So what have been the challenges? Well, the challenges have been that I'm here in Tumwater and everybody else is over in Lincoln County. That's across the state. So Jeremy and I, the technical producer, have been writing the, they have been writing the, Jeremy and I have been writing the grants, and they have been participating, but they haven't always been sure. We've been writing so many grants fast and furious they weren't really sure sometimes what was going on. And so we've been having, ever since January, we've been having monthly meetings where we talk about things and we go forward with this. Now, like both Bridget and Kylie are people who are used to having settled budgets. And so this has been kind of unsettling for them because this is a risk and we could fail. So it's always like, oh, you know what, we don't have enough money. I'm like, well, we may not. Let's just keep going forward. You know, we believe this is, we've all agreed. And so even though everybody agreed at the beginning that this would work, as we now have to hiring people in these communities is really, really a challenge because there aren't that many people. When you only have 500 people, and then what we're hiring for is 6 weeks. And for example, the teachers, we have to get teachers who are willing to come in for 6 weeks. We're going to have a week of training and then just work for 3 hours a day for 6 weeks and get paid $20 an hour to teach, you know, kids, and they may want to be off. And a lot of these teachers are farmers' wives, so we're asking them to do this at the height of, you know, and it goes into August right at the height of harvest season. So we're kind of crossing our fingers because there literally aren't people to hire. So we have been beating the bushes to find people who are willing to work for us. We had to beg people at Harrington School. If I hadn't had Kelly Tanky, the school secretary, on my side to recruit, this is where partnerships are crucial. She got the cooks. And you know, this whole thing would have fallen apart if we hadn't gotten the cooks. And so she's recruited the cooks that are willing to cook the food for the summer meals. Again, local partnerships crucial. Margie at the economic development person has been going out and she's been sending out the words and dealing with the little local newspapers and getting the word out. She's been talking to the Chamber of Commerce's. She's been saying how wonderful this is that the library is doing it. And I basically have her support that when I'm going to need, I'm hoping that, you know, after this 3 years, then we're going to go upward for this. We're going to see if the political climate is right to put this on the ballot. But hopefully then she's going to be willing to go out and say that, yes, you guys should vote for this because it's a good thing for our economic development community. Lincoln County, you can't see this from the map, but the north edge of Lincoln County fronts up on the Lake Roosevelt, which is behind the Cooley Dam. And so you have retirement communities slowly growing up there, and those retirement communities are going to want library services. In fact, they do drive down to these little libraries, and they kind of expect. In fact, I was in the library one time when a woman came down and she said, you know, I thought you guys would have a better library, and how come you don't have a county library system? We retired here because you had a library. And so that's kind of the, you know, that type of thing. Margie is aware that an amenity people look for to retire is a public library. And part of the allure of Lincoln County, it's immediately west to the second biggest population center in our state, which is Spokane, is cheap housing. And Lincoln County has that. And it also has a lifestyle. You know, you can buy an inexpensive home if you like to hunt, if you like to fish, if you like to, you know, kind of, if outdoor living is your thing, then Lincoln County could be an attractive place. But it needs amenities, which people look for. So that's what I'm hoping by this partnership, is that the economic development coordinator will block off political opposition from maybe junior fire districts or other people and say, libraries, this is a good deal. Libraries help the community. But does the area not qualify for summer food service program? Yes, it does qualify for summer food service program, but that's the thing, is the for the summer meal service program, you have to have money up front. And so that's why the LSTA grant was essential, is we couldn't afford it to have paid the cooks until we had the money up front. What I'm counting on is the reimbursement from the USDA program to give us seed money to have in the bank so we can afford to do this project over again next year, because we don't know if the Inland Northwest Foundation will allow us to do another grant. I don't think I'm going to ask LSTA. So what we hope is that by having grant funding, that we can have money in the bank to start this whole process over again. But we don't know that. So we are this is like, and everybody on the ground in Lincoln County who actually has to carry this out now is kind of hyperventilating a little bit. Are we going to have enough people? Jeremy, are you still there?
I am.
I don't know if, would you take a look? Yesterday we looked. How many kids were signed up? How much money did we need still? Do you remember? He's gonna look here. I think we had half of what we needed, the money to cover it. We've also been raising money in the, we've gotten a scholarship money. Each of the communities has raised scholarship money.
Yeah, we have
$1,500 from a local.
According to my notes that I have here, we needed about $14,000 in paid students joining us. We have about 2,000 on the books here for scholarships, and we have some that are expected to come in still, and at least one that was like $1,500 that's not listed here at all in scholarships, and we have 152 weeks worth of people that have said yes, we're going to attend and pay. That still leaves us about 91 paid weeks, about $4,500 to come up with, but that's much more manageable than, I mean, it's, I think, an $80,000 budget overall. $5,000 is kind of a drop in the bucket compared to the rest.
Right. Well, we are...
I'm being optimistic.
Yeah, I think one of the things that on the ground we were told, and again, Kelly Tanky said this to me, and I think this is true, is that once kids, if it's fun, if we make it fun, if we make it, there's not much to do. They don't have any parks, you know, outside of Vacation Bible School, there is nothing for kids to do. And, you know, the library program, which used to only be 1 day a week, and so the library program is going to be 5 days a week. And so we think we're going to attract, you know, most of the kids in town. Now, there are a lot of kids out of town. And so what we don't know is how many kids' parents are going to be willing to drive them in, or if the kids are enough, how many parents have 50 extra bucks a week to put towards, you know, having their kids excited to be someplace else. So it's, you know, a lot of families do things, you know, they're not used to having daycare available, so that's going to be different. And that's one of the things is as we do this, you know, it's going to get more and more people are going to get used to it. And so our hope is that if they're willing to pay for this. The other thing we have done is that we have contracted with the schools to test. They will give us blind access to their data, and what we hope to show is that the summer reading slump or the summer slump is not as much. That kids who participate in this program will have better. That they won't necessarily be, that their schools, comparing the previous years before, that there will be an increase or a decrease in the summer slide. That summer slump won't be as much as it would have been without their participation in this program. So that's it. It's complex. We don't know what's going to happen. I just am putting my faith in these people on the ground that, you know, we're hiring all the people right now. We're going to train. This program goes live July 3rd, and we won't do it on July 4th, but we think the first week won't be people really won't come because a lot of people will be gone, but we expect things to pick up and be much better. Oh, another thing about the Feed Your Brain grant, that is also in partnership with a local foundation in Washington State called Page Ahead, and they are coming out, and every child that participates in the Feed Your Brain grant will get a book for 4 weeks, and so each child at the end of this project will be able to take home 4 books. So that's another foundation that is working with us. So complex. Jeremy told me I was speaking a little fast. You might have questions. So does anybody have any questions? And either you can click on the talk button and just ask me directly, or you can type your questions in chat. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any questions. So in that case, how about other people's with partnerships? Any other people have experiences that they want to share about when partners have been essential and how you, basically this is a 10-year effort on my part to get all of these people in the same place at the same time and put all of these working consistently so they saw me all the time Well, all the time. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, all the time. I just kept showing up in Lincoln County. So, and then, you know, talking to them, talking up I have farm roots. I'm the granddaughter of a farmer. And so I I grew up on going back to South Dakota. And so I could kind of talk farm. So that helped, I think, being able to talk farm a little bit. I understand a little bit. I talked to my oldest cousin who's still managing our family farm, even though we sold him. In fact, my sisters and I sold him our quarters of land. So, you know, been involved in farming, wheat farming, and that's exactly what Lincoln County has, is wheat farming. So those are things that I think helped. I could talk farm. Anything else? How about any other people who want to talk about their experiences? You can type at the very bottom. You can type questions in, or click on the talk button. So, thank you. Great program. Well, I hope it works. But, you know, I think it will, because what we're doing is we're building communications. You know, we're building these all. So, in other words, I have 4-H, I have economic development, I have churches, I have schools. Everybody's working together. And so, you know, that's going to count when we eventually go down the road, go up for a library bond issue that is something different. So, okay, all right, ALA, I appreciate his relation takes time and listening. That's right. That's exactly what it takes. Lots of time, lots of listening. And I see that Kate's typing, and Beth is as well. So we'll wait for theirs to come through. And sometimes, you know, we forget how long it takes to get data over busy lines. So it's not a just exchange. Yeah, it's not just an exchange of we provide this and you do that. That's absolutely true. You have to. I think trust is so important. They have to trust that I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, and I have to trust that they are going to do. In other words, you know, I wrote the contract with, you know, I wrote these. I didn't sign my name. The Reardon librarian has to trust that the Ritzville librarian is going to do what we said that Inland Northwest does it. Yeah, power to do this at a local library. Okay. Yep. Okay. Beth or Kate, are you typing? Okay, Beth says, we partner with a lot of groups. I'm in our professional development office. Oh, just went away just a minute here. And we partner regularly with librarians in the field by asking them to present webinars for us. They can speak from the perspective. Yes, that's a good one. Like that. And then Kate says, how much you've done. It's run by the Department of Education. They receive $30 million in funding from the Department of Human Services. Kate, could you say, is that a day camp or is it summer meals? Kate, could you talk a little bit more about that? Tessa says they are summer learning camps, one in each of our 95 counties. Wow. Okay, well, I'd like to hear. I'm going to contact you off thing to learn more about that. That's cool. Any questions from library staff getting permission to do this relationship building? These are tiny places. Kylie, is the director of the, and so she doesn't have to ask anybody to get out of the building because she's the director and her trustees have given her permission to do this. Reardon, she is the library director, and she didn't have any trouble because her library meets she meets from 2 to, she opens the library 3 times a week, and it's from like 2 to 6, and so if she's going to be running the library program, the Feed Your Brain program, and so there's no conflict for her. She's going to run it, and there was no conflict. The Harrington librarian is on oxygen and probably in her late 70s, and so Bridget at 4-H is going to run the Harrington library program. So that wasn't an issue. There's no one to serve. So none of these libraries are open during the time, basically. They're not opening. They're open the traditional come to town time, which is like late in the afternoon, so like 3 to 5. So during the time that the schools are going to do it. Now, when we expand, what we hope to do is each time we do this, we hope to expand into the remainder of the county. Next year we hope to do it in Odessa. And what we're planning on doing then is not necessarily, a lot of the librarians in these towns are old, and by that I shouldn't say old, but I mean they're in their 60s and 70s. Older is what I should have said, being a woman in my 60s. They are older, and so, they don't necessarily want that, so we're going to, for example, in Odessa, I hope to approach the school librarian who isn't a certificated librarian, but she's really good with kids, and so I'm hoping to have her run the program next year. And in fact, Kylie at Fritzville was going to ask the gal from Odessa if she wouldn't be interested in fulfilling some of the roles. We'd pay her more than she gets paid to be the school librarians. So, you know, we're kind of trying to pull these people. And then the other thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the school librarians to participate in this library project, because that's the only way the public, if I get the school libraries and the public libraries to do a union catalog, that's the only way we're going to be able to afford to do a union catalog, if the school libraries are in on it and join with the public libraries to pay Baywater to do it. So, again, more partnerships necessary. Okay, any other questions or comments? Well, lots of balls in the air for us right now, Jeremy and I. I will tell you that another partnership that's been essential is the gentleman on the phone, the technical producer, has been essential on helping me get these grants going. We had the Inland Northwest Foundation, Jeremy and I literally, I think it was, we didn't realize it, but when I wrote these wonderful answers for the grant application, then we called in and we realized that they counted spaces in addition to characters. And so Jeremy's very good on manipulating Word and Windows and Excel and all these things, and he's been a key partner. So you also need partnerships on your staff, and without Jeremy, I wouldn't have been able to pull all of this off. Jeremy's been an essential part in building it. So you have to have staff support, partners with your staff, in addition to other things. So, well, I just wanted you to know I appreciate it, because it took two of us to get a lot of these grant applications in. Okay, any other thing? Well, Jeremy will, speaking of partnership, Jeremy is going to we did record this, and so we are going to, he will put it up on the WiseCon list, the link, and we will, if someone reminds me, you can, you know, this program will be done at end of August, and I will be exhausted. I'm not on the ground, but I feel exhausted. So if you're interested on some of the people, I can't remember who's doing August, if you want me to report on what happened at the August meeting, or better yet, the September meeting, I would be happy to give you an update. So thanks everybody for coming. This was great. I really appreciate it. Anybody else have any partnerships that they want to talk about it? Any other things? Okay, I'm not making ALA. I'm going to PLA instead. So hopefully, all right, great. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, PLA. I'm going for PLA. Sounds good. Thanks.